and welcome to the Unofficial Controller Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast, episode 228, with me, George, and this week joined by Seb, young buck to my uncle buck. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well, man. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm okay. I've had my daily sermon, my preaching from Pastor Longhorn, so I feel energized, ready to spread his message. Other than that, I mean, I'm feeling great. The El Paso sun beating down on us makes me feel warm, a little bit dry. But other than that, I feel like I've been reborn, if I'm honest with you.
After Pastor Longhorn had me, skinning taters the other day, I realized that RGT's rescue mission can't come quick enough. At this point, I'm over here. I'm like, I've been doing a lot of incognito things, try to sneak words to the outside. And, if Pastor Longhorn's listening, this is actually Rufus that's talking, not Sebastian, by the way. But my apologies, Rufus. But every day I keep thinking to myself, things are going to get better. The rescue is going to come from the outside. It really doesn't. But, one day, maybe we'll get there.
Well, without going too far into it, RGT's literally some stuff went on this weekend on the show's community. I don't know what went on totally, but as a result, that RGT has gone to completely incommunicado. You see how real life informs the law and law informs real life. So he's out there. I don't know where he's gone, but he bust out. He crawled under the wire, which was no mean feat because it was a small gap. He achieved it. He's free. He's out there now. He's scrubbed his name off the internet. So I think he's gone full stealth because he knows the strength and reach of Longhorn is all encompassing. Bobby didn't want anything to do with the shenanigans down here in El Paso. He kind of said that was kind of, that's the sort of thing you expect when you hang out in El Paso with a man with a checkered past, let's put it this way, Pastor Longhorn. For sure. And until you come and talk to him and you realise that actually he knows what he's talking about, and this ascension in the UFO at Christmas is worthwhile. I expected some pushback about the demise of Ray and Wayne, but none. So it means that Pastor Longhorn's message is just been universally,
man.
It's been universally accepted as well. It can get away with literally anything right now. From what I heard, rumors, all right, and the CIA probably going to hear this, so I'm a little bit concerned. But Pastor Longhorn was the guy on the grassy knoll at the Trump shooting the other day. He was the alternative weapon.
No!
He just didn't get deployed. So I don't know.
Oh no!
Edgy. I know it's edgy for a worldwide show to make such a comment, but we went there.
Sure.
Without any further ado. And because I don't want new fans to bounce off this show thinking I came here for a gaming news episode, as Pastor Longhorn says, you guys have the gall to call this a gaming news show. Yeah, we do, Pastor, and we will continue to do so. So let's find out what you've been playing this week, Seb.
I've been playing probably, I think this is I almost was about to say this is a controversial statement, but I actually don't think it is now that I'm like marinating on it a bit. Like, I think I've been playing the most mainstream game to come out this year, and that's NCAA Football 25. We
spoke about this off air, if I may. And I'll be honest with you. The stuff that you've told me about it's got me wetter than Pastor Longhorn's sock. That's been dropped.
God, that's so wet.
That's been.
The man sweats profusely. Oh my gosh, it's so wet.
Yeah, okay, that's good enough. Okay, that's how excited I am for NCAA. Tell us a bit more about your experience with it.
Okay, so I've been playing for a couple of days now. I got a early jump on it. So I think one of the things I like about this is that it feels like Madden, except, when you go to YouTube and you click on a video and then you click on the speed option and you could ramp up that speed, it feels like that. It feels like it's Madden, but moved up 4X with like a lot of the features and complaints that people have been complaining about with Madden for the last 10 years, mostly addressed, not all the way addressed, but
Where does the speed improvement come from? Because, the plays and the snaps, they're kind of predetermined time slots. Is it from the menu, the UI, the animations, the loading? Where's this speed coming from?
It's not the loading because I think Madden has been exceptionally done well with as far as load times go. It's with like the gameplay, the animations within each snap. There's a zippier nature into like the passing mechanics, the tackling mechanics, and I'm sorry for all the Europeans and all of our friends across the pond who are probably like, oh, that's American football, but like it feels like this is addressing a lot of the complaints that people have with sports games in general. There are some microtransactions here, but they're not like super abundant. They feel like more in the background, and that feels so refreshing in this day and age. It's like this almost like a decades old sports game in a way, in the sense that like it is focused primarily on the game modes. It's focused primarily on you building a dynasty, so to speak, taking whatever college you want and actually building out a legacy with that college, whether it be adding on an established legacy for like schools that are actually really good in football, American football, that is, or taking a school such as my alma mater, Stephen F. Austin, and making like this small school slowly into a juggernaut. It feels more realistic with like the scouting, the tackling, the actual like kicking. Feels you have to be more precise on kicking. Madden is just like a timed mini game, so to speak, of like you press A or X depending on what console you're playing on, and the power button goes all the way up on this like slight power meter, and then you click it and when it gets to the top, and then you click it when it goes down below
the classic
to get the accuracy.
The classic golf swing mechanic that seems to be any metric in sport when you need to kick something, it seems, or hit something, seems to be this sort of circular gauge where you have to nail it at the top and then nail it at the bottom, and that defines your power and your accuracy. I'll be honest with you, I find that mechanic, I don't know what replaces it, but that mechanic feels like the relic it is. That mechanic has survived since 1982 or before.
NCAA does a little differently in the sense that there's a arrow button for the direction you want to kick in, and you have to press A to control, like hold A or hold X to control the amount of power that you distribute out, and then you have to release it at a certain time, and depending on like your person's like accuracy, that's how it takes over. So I'm like, if you put too much power into it, it really doesn't matter how you place the arrow. You might shank the ball at a different angle. So you have to be more precise with like loading up the arrow more than you have to worry about like a up and down time mechanic. So
is the player's own inbuilt accuracy stat determining where the ball goes in? Is that what you're saying? Because I think that's good.
I'm saying it's like 75% that, and then it's 75, and the other 25 is the player's ability to like release your power accordingly, like in the appropriate time measure of of the distance you need to kick. So, for instance, if you're doing a kickoff at the beginning of the game, or like after a player scores, then if you hold it for too long, it doesn't matter on what direction you put it in, your accuracy will suffer. So you have to be very precise with how long you load up the arrow mechanic to actually get it to a certain region. So like if you're doing a field goal, you kind of have to be more precise of like, oh, I need 45 yards. If I just load up the box and fill up the arrow completely, there's a chance that I overshot this and maybe like my accuracy suffers 10 or 25%. So It's more like, it's instead of like filling it all the way up, you're like, oh, I want to get 75% of the way because I want this to be more accurate than I do actual powerful.
Yeah, because sometimes those field goal conversions, they're on some Maddens I've played, it's just a foregone conclusion. And then in some Maddens I've played, like a 1 yard field goal almost becomes like climbing Mount Everest. It almost feels impossible to chip it over the bar, doesn't it?
I can't state this enough. I've seen so many clips over the internet over the last couple of days of people missing field goals because like we're so accustomed to just if you have 100% power and you nail that timing down, you're automatically going to make this shot.
Yeah.
Now it's like you have to be more precise and more thoughtful on like loading up that arrow meter. And I'm like, oh, it's thought provoking in a way that kicking hasn't been in a very long time.
Yeah, I like breaking down a video game sport, and then refining smaller parts of it to make it more realistic. To me, is the evolution of it, and I feel like American football, with little to no competition, it's really only EA that can drive that product forward in the Madden team. And I think
for sure.
it's easy. I know I've often heard, and I've said it myself, that criticisms of these yearly annualized sports titles is warranted. But it's not as easy as we think. They can only focus on renewing one or two mechanics within it. I think this NCAA has been a great chance for them to kind of
feels like a shot in the arm, man. It really does.
And I am under no illusions that these improvements and gameplay tweaks are going to roll into the next Madden. And as we spoke off air this week, if that ends up being the case, an NCAA save can roll into your progression within Madden as you go to the big leagues. They might have just found themselves a new yearly, buyer of both titles here, because that, to me, appeals to me. There's something about an American sport, as you say, and sorry to all the European listeners who probably wanted to hear Euro discussions.
It hits different, though, man. It feels it just
here.
hits different. Yeah, it just feels different. It's like, so one of the things that it's a small little thing, but it boggled my mind. It's like running the football, handing it off to your running back, and you're running it just like the camera angle, instead of like that traditional wide shot that we've gotten for 10 years on Madden, it actually like zooms in on the jersey number behind the running back, and you're following him almost like a one shot camera angle from a movie. And it really just, that whole little clip just zooms in on him, and it feels more intimate in a way that I just couldn't believe. It's that one little detail, but everything, it feels more like you're down on the gridiron with him at that time. And it transforms something that's as simple as running the football into something that feels more cinematic. And I'm like, oh, it's just, whoever thought of that should get a raise in its own right, because they changed that mechanic and made it feel more lifelike.
Well, it also, I mean, I'm speaking from my imagination and your app description here, but it feels like it, as you say, it plants you down on there. And as soon as you're down on the ground with those guys, I've noticed American football suffers from this, not only on TV, but in game. When you zoomed out, wide pitch shot, wide gameplay. I know we get the replays and everything, but you miss that hard physicality. And I think bringing the camera down and slapping it in the midst of the action like that, it just reminds you of the sheer physicality of these dudes smashing into each other the way they do.
Oh, man. And even more so, it's like the little attention to details that they put in this game versus like the same old rigmarole that they've had in Madden. It just feels refreshing. Like I was playing as a DB, a defensive back, and like before the snap was issued out, I started hyping up the crowd, and you can actually hear the roar of like the university start to come alive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And you see like your person, he starts to do almost like this jumping jack emoji as to say, like, everyone get hyped for this moment. And the crazy thing is I whiffed on the play. Like he still let the quarterback still got the ball to the receiver, and I completely whiffed on that play. But to hear the audience beforehand go from this loud rampant like let's go, the roaring of the crowd to going, oh, it was like, oh, it just adds that simple, it just adds that touch to it. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I'm loving this. It's like in the same way, like I think it was 2021 where I think Forza Horizon was being nominated for a lot of Game of the Years because that year was kind of lackluster, and also because like that felt like it was hitting different in a genre that people normally marginalize, and that's the racing genre. This feels like it is the Forza Horizon of this year. Like it feels like this is going to hit different in the sports genre in a way that sports games often get overlooked because it's the same old, same old.
Well,
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you like video games, podcasts, and reminiscing? I'm actor, video game writer, and total sweetie pie Connor Savage McCabe, and on each episode of Call Me By Your Game, I sit down with a guest for an intimate look at a special game from their past. Did you and your dad beat Spyro the Dragon over the holidays? Or was Halo 4 the one thing that united your roommates during your senior year of college? Stories like these are what Call Me By Your Game is about. From video game content creator Janet Garcia to Hades voice actor Courtney Vinay's, I interview wonderful comedians and game industry friends about these memories. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe someday you'll call me by your game.
and no doubt, sort of almost your trademark now. Certainly a bold statement, but one I can thoroughly get behind. With your college career in football parked for a moment, sir, Triple S, what else have you been playing? You threatened last week of coming in here with a clutch of indies and wafting them under our nose like a freshly bought bouquet. What you got for me?
I've been playing Schism. We talked about our. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Skim.
Yeah. Skim. Yeah. I've been playing Skim.
Yeah, I've seen some mixed reviews for that. How's it checking out in the UCP test room?
It's okay. It is to me, it's like I'm probably gonna give this a 7 out of 10. I think this is a really cool concept where I think some of the story beats and some of the, I guess you could say, more intimate elements of the gameplay don't necessarily flesh out, but I think it's a really cool premise of you being able to jump, you playing as this almost like this smaller than life character that's able to jump between shadows and all these, like, it's more of a puzzle game than it is like an action adventure game, but it's almost like a puzzle platformer in the sense that there's this world that's moving around you, and this is almost like a 2.5D 3D world, and you're playing as this little being that's able to jump that has to get from point A to point B, and the only way you can do that is to jump from shadow to shadow in this moving, evolving world. I think it's a really cool concept. I think this is a well done established game that just had a few faults there that I think it kind of keeps it from being that great or that exceptional level. But I do think this is one that if you are looking for a puzzle platformer to play on the Steam Deck, go check this one out.
Okay, I'm excited for that. Is that it? Shall I tear into my stack of games that I've been playing, or have you got something else for us?
I can go ahead and talk about this since this episode is going to be released like Sunday. Flintlock Caesar Dawn is my guilty pleasure game so far this year. I think
that's another one that I know you've got locked down in the test lab there.
Yeah,
and I'm seeing sniffs of this, and I wasn't sure based on the premise, and I found the name a little misleading, if I'm honest, because I'm a history nerd.
Yeah,
but. I mean, the premise is your gods, basically, which is not what I expected from Flintlock. But tell me a bit more about it, because I've seen the reviews coming through praising its high production values, praising its trying something a little bit different, but also at the same time kind of kicking back a little bit on them being not as surprised as they hoped they would be. Is that how?
Oh, it's for sure a 7 out of 10. Like, it is straight down the middle. Like, this feels like almost.
I just want to say that I wish, and we're working on it, listeners.
Yeah.
We want to get this show on YouTube. And if we had done that today, they'd have seen the UCP dog biscuit come in shot at Pastor Longhorn's little corral here, where we're sat round on, I don't know, dirty blankets and pillows. I'm looking forward to Pastor Longhorn serenaded us out the show at the end of the episode, like he did last time. That was, I think that's how we end now. We sit down here on the cushions and we basically just sing along with Pastor Longhorn, and we encourage you to do the same. The question I've got for the listeners, I know this is off topic, Seb, so bear with me. Do they want Pastor Longhorn's music to be the intro as well as the outro? Or
I think it should be. The intro stays the same, but then there should be like a deep voice that goes, Longhorn Productions presents. And then it should just start the UCP song, and then Longhorn's theme at the end. I think that should be how this
the
whole thing should play
Longhorn
out.
theme.
Yeah, the Longhorn theme. The Longhorn theme.
Let's cut back to my question to you about Flintlock then. And apologies for that slight ramble, but when I get an idea, not even God himself, not even Longhorn can stop it forming in my mouth. Flintlock. Tell me a little bit about what's going on with this game.
Flintlock is the most God of War Ragnarok game we've gotten this year. And I mean that in the most positive way possible of like, it feel like
roguelikes are in the bin. You Ragnalikes. That's the
that's pretty much it. It feels like a AA studio like not necessarily copy the Ragnarok formula or the God of War formula, but like they kind of thought, hey, let's make a game that's kind of Jedi Survivor, kind of like God of War, and then like we'll put it a little bit of like Forspoken mix in there, and that's basically what this game is. It's like it feels fluid, the combat feels fun to play. I think like the mechanics of the game are crisp enough. It just feels like a AA production of what you imagine like almost like a off-brand God of War Ragnarok is. And I like that. I think I've been missing that all year. It's like, if you don't go in expecting like a 10 out of 10 video game, if you expect almost like, this is almost like the Saints Row version of what Saints Row is to GTA is what this is to like God of War. I think you're gonna be perfectly fine.
Now
with
that's the sort of back of the box quote that the UCP throws around with abandon.
Yeah.
Imagine picking up Flintlock in the store and turning it over and seeing that on the
I think that's apt. That's apt though. I think this has some really cool like ideas behind it. I think like the elemental and the magic and the gunplay is fun. I think this is like, is it the most crisp high production game? No, I don't. I think some of the story beats are lacking, but I do think if you want something that's like that kind of scratches that God of War itch, but don't quite hit as hard as like God of War, as far as like the narrative beats, as far as like the high production value of like the AAA-ness of what God of War is, then this is for you. This is for all those people who probably were like, ah, man, I'm missing that type of game this year. And you're not going to get a 10 out of 10 here. Just be aware. But like, if you're looking for something that kind of scratches that itch, this is going to do that.
Plus, unlike the aforementioned Ragnarok, this is available everywhere. So,
oh yeah, it's going to be on Game Pass this week too.
Again, we talked about that last week, but if it's still serving up bangers like that, there's still a bit of value there, I think could be argued. I don't know what Xbox would be doing here. I don't know how much money they would have to back up, but like, this is the kind of exclusive that wouldn't necessarily like set the world on fire. But like, if they would have hit with Starfield and with Redfall and Forza and all that kind of stuff, and they were able to nail this type of game down as like as an exclusive, this could have been a momentum, like I guess not builder, but almost like a bridge game to where they could say like, oh, we gave you another decent game that's actually a wide appeal game. Like I think that's the problem there. Yeah. I think that, it forms part of a nice sumptuous a banquet, a sumptuous Chinese meal.
George, I don't want to take up all the time in the world. I know we got a crisp show we planned today, but like, well, the last game I want to talk about is another game that's releasing this week, and that's Katsuye Gami Path of the Goddess. Do you remember this game? It was on Xbox's showcase for the last 3 showcases.
You wouldn't be able to pronounce that so slickly twice, so I'm not going to make you. But no, I'm sat down, so give us a full brief on this. Another inside track from our man on the inside, Seb.
Okay, so it's a unique Japanese kind of style game where you're kind of where I thought this game was a hack and slash, almost like a Devil May Cry game, because that's what the trailers looked like to me. I'm like, do you remember this game, by the way? Like, remember seeing this on the Xbox showcase, like for the last two times in a row?
Do you know what I must do? But I'm not very good with Japanese names. You probably need to show me a picture. But I think
It's,
I know the one that you're talking about. I'm
yeah,
80% certain.
it has like the weird almost watercolor like art styles, but it's very
Yeah,
vibrant. It feels
yeah,
like a hack and slash
yeah.
woman who's hack and slashing all over the place. But like that's kind of what this is, but like it isn't though. This is actually a tower defense game. I was shocked. Yeah, I was shocked because like all the trailers kind of catfish you into believing this was more like a beat 'em up action game, almost like a Devil May Cry style game. And this
But
is actually like,
But
oh,
is
go
it a
ahead.
good tower defense game? And is it worth the money?
I think this is it is Devil May Cry meets a tower defense game. So you can actually go around hacking and slashing.
Oh, so you
people.
can freewheel.
Yeah, you can free will that, but like a lot of the bulk of what you're doing is actually like setting up a tribe, kind of like a main city that you're kind of building upon, and then you have like people and specializations in within that city or within that area that kind of like that you can upgrade and use those to build certain aspects of that area that helps, and they in turn help you like defend your area against like the demons that are coming. That, and it has a day night cycle, so like you can kind of get your stuff ready before like the demons invade on a weekly to nightly basis. So I'm like, I think
I understand why you're saying it's a tower defense, but are we here to not say it's not like a first person anno, a third person anno in a way? You know, you're building this town and the infrastructure and the people within it.
I think that comparison is not wrong. I think if I had to oddly compare it to any game on the market today, I oddly would compare it to more of a State of Decay. Like it is
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like because State of Decay gives you that free will that you can still move around. You can go explore outside of your area, but you also can leave your area guarded, or at least like stored up supplies and stored up gear. You can also like upgrade different things. I think like this fleshes out a lot of mechanics that State of Decay kind of just shallowly introduces throughout like State of Decay 1 and 2. But I feel like it's more like that than it is Anno.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Is this another Seb recommend, or are we in the 7 out of 10 territory? Where are we at with this one?
I think this is a little better than the other games I've mentioned. I was shocked because I thought this was going to be a straight 6 or 5 out of 10. But I think like if I was to review this, and keep in mind, people, I've only played like maybe 5 to 10 hours of this, I think I would probably lean closer to an 8 at this point. So I think this is, if you want a tower defense game, if you want a tower defense meets a Devil May Cry, I think this is something you should definitely pick up. I will say the caveat is like, it is a Japanese style of storytelling. So if that is not your bag, you're not going to be invested in any
We've
of
talked
these
recently
characters.
how we have both felt overloaded with that style of game in the last
for sure.
6 months at least. This isn't going to change anyone's mind or opinion on that sort of oversaturation. But again, it's sad these games haven't been spaced more. I guess last year was busy. A lot of stuff got pushed, so it's ended up here in the H1 of 2024. And that's probably left a little bit of gamer fatigue. I just hope that this particular game doesn't get ravaged with that, because I am feeling burnout of Japanese-only storytelling. And
I think I am too, but especially considering I also watch anime, so I'm like, it's compounded on top of that. But like, I think this being on Game Pass versus a lot of those being like, you had to actually put your money where your mouth is and actually buy a lot of the other ones, such as like a Dragon, Grand Blue, Tekken, all those. I think
Final
is
Fantasy.
going to help it. Yeah, I think that's going to help it in this case. But yeah, I'm sorry I've been hogging up all the time. What have you been playing?
Oh, mate, well, we can make this very quick. I thought this week I'd focus on some of the games that have been going on in the background that I haven't really talked about a great deal. I think the first one to start with is Dave the Diver. I've been quietly... Yeah, I know. I've been quietly just playing that in the background. I think maybe since last year. I don't know. But I like it. It's a game I can drop in and out for 5 or 10 minutes and just enjoy. There's the fun, quick sort of turnaround gameplay elements of catching the fish and serving them. And then underneath that is the sort of bizarre ongoing story about meeting the sea people and decoding their messages and all that sort of good stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I have enjoyed the whole game. I much do prefer the swimming and the sort of exploration aspect over the diner. And I took your advice last time I mentioned this. You said, well, just stop being tight and employ people. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what I should have done months ago. I've been pulling what's left of my hairline out over the demands of the people that frequent my sushi bar. I've never met such an irate group of customers in my life who expect sushi served almost instantaneously, which I can't do. So I have refused to get any help in the kitchen for Sancho Banshee or whatever his name is. Like, no, if you're the guru, you get on with it. And I've thrown 2 servers and myself.
Have you ever made sushi in real life?
No.
Are you a sushi person?
Oh, I love it.
Okay. Gotcha. I like cooked sushi more so, like cooked fish, like dishes more than I like the actual raw stuff. But like my wife and I bought a sushi maker a long time ago. And like for some date nights, because we do a weekly date night, for some date nights, we actually
You
try
are
to
the
make
most beautiful human man.
Why you say that?
Oh, we do a date night a week and we get the sushi kit out. Like, I want to believe. Oh, Pastor Longhorn, can you give me this life?
Man, it's like we occasionally like doing those kind of things, and like sushi gets a little bit messy, but like the sushi kit makes it kind of fun, but it is extremely hard still to make it. It still probably takes like us probably like 20 minutes to roll at this point. So I can imagine, like,
I'm the devil, because I kind of ran with that in my head about you and your good lady having private time, and it
No, I'm afraid it's more like the actual making sushi part.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah. Excellent.
But yeah, it's so unique and so interesting that like that part of the game kind of like lets you make it, or lets you like see how all these different roles are made, because like you can kind of like get a surface level like what ingredients are needed to for like certain dishes. So I love that aspect of it. But continue on, like what's been your experience so far?
Yeah, look, do you know what, the game's been out and I'm sure most people played and finished it. It's my dip in and out game. It's relatively harmless. It takes up minimal space on the hard drive, yet provides a maximum return of investment for fun. Some of the mechanic wears a little bit thin. When you get down deep as well, the oxygen management tends to sort of take over everything. But luckily, they are pretty generous with the containers and what did I discover most frustratingly? And I've died right next to these things as well.
Oh, no. No.
The shells. There's like little
they
shells.
give you oxygen? The ones that give you oxygen?
Like, there's no steer though, is there? And I've died next to these things, desperate for oxygen, thinking, well, like, I don't know what else to do. And I don't know why, but I was down in the depths the other day and I just pressed square near one of these things. The icon popped up and I noticed my oxygen meter fill up and I was like, oh dear.
You played umpteenth hours and just realized that. That's so funny.
It just doesn't signpost it. And I'm not really. I know there's a side mission where you're collecting all the different coloured shells and all the different coloured starfish and all that sort of stuff. And it was just another one of those things that I just at that moment thought, oh, it's just another shell. I really need to focus on what I'm doing. I'm looking for oxygen. Little did I know, this bad boy was oxygen. So Dave the Diver, unique game. It's on the premium catalog on PlayStation at the moment, and I've sure seen it kicking about in Games Pass, etc. So if it's available to you for free, get all over it.
That's something that burns my beans about modern games, by the way. It's like there's such a celebration and emphasis on, like we want the player to explore and discover. Like that sense of discovery is so emphasized because it's like the Breath of the Wild effect, where like like tutorials are starting to not be a thing in a lot of games because they're like, hey, just go out and play a game. And I'm like, no, teach me how your game works. Like, show me the mechanic. Show me that I'm actually like, this could save my life one day. Show me how like some of the intricacies of your game. And I'm like, I feel like that's an example of like, no, that could have easily been said in a 2-minute bubble or 2-second bubble. And you just didn't do it just because you want everyone to have that discovery.
There's an element of joy in the self-discovery of Dave the Diver, but there's also an awful lot of mechanics that are confusing. Mm-hmm. You normally surface and some guy appears in a speedboat, literally exposition dumps, probably more text than I've seen in the whole game to this point, and then just toots off into the background. And I sometimes, he pops up and he gives me all this ramble. And I think, what do you want me to do with this brown speedboat guy? What do you want me to do with this information? Oh, look on your phone. I open my phone in game and it's more confusing than my phone in real life. There's that many apps swimming around on Dave the Diver's phone. I don't know how this guy even bloody makes a phone call, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, I've been kind of diving in the iDiver app and I've been checking that I've seen all the fish in the different areas. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. To move swiftly on to another game that I've not talked about enough, and Portal's certainly give me a window into playing more of it, MLB 24. It's back.
What?
Well, it never left, but it's squeezed back into the rotation, hasn't it? Because, why not? Still a great looking game. I feel like out of the last trio of games, and I might just be speaking from my own personal insight here, but like 24 feels the least played. Or is it 23? I don't know anymore. 24. It's 24.
I think 24 is the one that came out this year.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's actually the best one of the three. Like, yeah, the jukebox is a bit weak compared to previous entries. And that's frustrating to me because I love the music of an MLB. It literally dictates the music I'll be listening to for the next 12 months as I make a playlist out of the songs that are on it. Nothing's going to top MLB 22. That was absolute fire. But 23 was okay, and 24 is a return to what I would say a soundtrack more similar to sort of 17 to 19, if I'm honest. But, whatever. Mm-hmm. 22 will always have a special place in my heart. But this one's nice. I've mentioned before ad infinitum that, just the extra injection of the different animations between games for the clubhouse, your own place, planes, coaches, etc., is enough to make the big difference for me. Other than that, the only other game I've been playing is my perpetual grind of Like a Dragon. I said to you off air, I saved this because I'm a Yakuza guy and, I wanted it to be special and awesome. And I've enjoyed it for the most part, but now I'm in the thick end of what just feels what could be any JRPG. And I'm grinding around the small village for what feels like probably
eternity.
A third at least of my playtime so far, and I'm 60 hours deep on this because I want to see everything. And I know I've blown at least 10 hours in Shibuya, and it's super frustrating because it's not even the proper Shibuya from previous games. It's a very locked down version. So yeah, I'm kind of just trying to grind through that. I put on my big boy shorts and I went to see this particular character that I need to fight, and I'll be honest with you. Although I beat him, no, I didn't beat him. I'm getting ahead of myself. I wore him down to 25% of his health bar. But there was no way I was getting any lower. So that made me realize that I'm back on the grind. Mm-hmm. So I'm throwing myself back in the Crucible or the Colosseum or whatever they call it in this one. And I'm just going to keep ratcheting up. And then I'm going to go at him I'm basically now so stubborn that I'm going to max level my guys. And then I'm going to go back for this dude. And although it's probably going to cost me a year of my life to do this, I want this to be the biggest, most embarrassing arse whipping this man has ever seen. And he is not normally someone who sees arse whippings. That's all I'm going to say on the matter.
Keep in mind, everybody, this is George stubbornly not adhering to the job system that's in the game, by the way. Because I'm like...
Listen, that job system... It can literally do one. I am so frustrated with that element of this game. Like, I didn't want this to be a JRPG. It's nice that it was there. If you could have switched between the two different modes on the fly, I'd have been stoked. Me and you spoke off air about how
for sure.
It's helping them make the game or potentially other publishers and developers are looking at this JRPG angle as a way of turning games around quicker. And certainly Like a Dragon has saved an awful lot of animations to go JRPG, but I'm missing just being able to wail on some guy, really missing it. I've got Judgment on the back burner for Such a Desire, but I'm just hoping that maybe the next Yakuza we see a return to form. I don't know.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, give me all the JRPG goodness, because I'm like, that's the only way I'm going to play this game, this series at this point.
I need you to go back and play Zero and then come at me with that, because Zero was a retelling, or a prequel of for the retelling of Kiwami 1 and 2.
Does it still have the brawling beat 'em up though? Is that still the gameplay?
Don't worry about that, beautiful.
Okay, I was about to say I hate it. Oh my god!
No, you don't hate it. You just don't like it at all, and that's fine. Horses for courses, I suppose. I just think Zero particularly nailed it. It made you feel happy. It didn't like bog you down too much with the button bashing, and then obviously the animations and the heat moves just lift it to another level. And although you kind of get them in this when you're doing the JRPGs, it's those heat moves that I miss a lot. You had the ability at times to kind of chain them together so you could see multiple different animations, and it's great when you pop a move in this and it's one where the background changes, like Namba's sort of poison fury or poison power or whatever it's called, where he flies in the air in this dark cloud and then breathes his poison down on everybody. Yeah, it looks sick, don't get me wrong. I think it looks cool, but I skip every single one of those big power moves now, like the team moves that I was so desperate to unlock. Immediately, as soon as the animation rolls, I'm happy, because those special moves are ones I can skip. If you're just doing a general on the ground move, you can't skip it. So I even get frustrated with that. So there's a lot to break down about that game, and I know it all washes into Ishin as well, which is even bigger. So I'm looking forward to losing an even bigger part of my life, bullheadedly JRPGing my way through Ishin as well. But
I didn't play Ishin, but I really loved Infinite Wealth, the one that really just came out this year.
That's the one I'm referring to. So don't write in, everyone. But the one I'm kind of most intrigued on playing once I've got this one out of the way, and I will get it physical from PlayAsia when I get round to it. I've said that before, and I'm a man of my word, so I'm going to do it. But the man who changed his name, like the short 20-hour interstitial game that goes between Ishin and Like a Dragon and this latest one, Infinite Wealth.
It's more of the detective one, right?
I think you play as Kiryu, so I don't know exactly what the gameplay is, but I know that I'm going to play that immediately on the bounce of this. With that all said and done, I think it's time for the news. To scour the very darkest regions of the internet to bring you the latest stories. First up, a robbery, you say? We'll be there in a few months. The Precinct, the very promising police-based indie we've mentioned, or I've probably ranted on about a few times on here now, has been pushed back from its previously announced 15th of August release date. The PS5 and Series X-bound title is now targeting a less specific autumn, or for our American cousins, fall launch, with the developer Falling Tree Games offering an explanation through the game's Steam page. The additional time will allow us to fine-tune the gameplay, fix any remaining bugs, and provide the seamless gameplay experience that we set out to create when we first started working on The Precinct, the statement reads. It's worth noting the studio consists of just 5 employees. This blew my mind, Seb. I don't know what you know about The Precinct. And I know it's like an isometric game and everything, but it looks great. It's an ambitious project, and given that it relies heavily on cool sounding procedural crime system, if the delay allows Fallen Tree Games to better realize its goals, then that can only be a good thing. This game astounds me. Yeah, it looks like an old school isometric game, but what they're offering in this sandbox is incredible. And your progression through your career in the police and all that sort of stuff. I think this game's going to actually hit and land really well this year at the back end of the year when it comes. If they can clean it up and make it kind of fit the gimmick that the trailer's selling to us, I actually think this game will be a surprise hit.
It moves more isometrically than my comparison, but it does have this Mafia GTA kind of vibe to it that I really like.
And the take on the sandbox. Yeah, we've had games before like True Crime, and we had Sleeping Dogs, where you play as a
Love Sleeping Dogs.
You play as a police officer, but let's face it was a thinly devised plot gimmick for you to enable you to just do what you want in this city. You're not really a police officer, are you? Like you are in LA Noire or whatever. And I think imposing those rules on the player makes it something different from Sleeping Dogs, which is good, and allows this to be, I'm not looking for a full-on police simulator, but this could saddle the line between full-on police simulator and a game,
for sure,
and brings those gamey aspects, which I'm quite intrigued by. I'm a bit gutted because I was kind of looking forward to this, but its push means it leaves me more space to play unhindered Star Wars Outlaws, and I'll be honest with you, right now that's all I care about, and that game had better be good, Seb. All
I gotta say is this precinct better come out like either now or or find its window next year that they don't think GTA is going to swallow them up on, because
this cannot release next to GTA. It will get absolutely destroyed, and I think that's a shame because this can stand on its own 2 feet in its own world, but thrown up against like massive AAA games like this looks like something you'd play on the Atari ST. So
it's a shame it got pushed back. The summer's kind of dry right now. I'm like, man, that felt like it would have been a perfect window. The fall feels like it's
you know me. I like strange games, and that's the sort of game I was excited to get into. I didn't mention it in the what you've been playing section, but just to give you an idea of the sort of man I am, I downloaded, and it's fully downloaded now, so I can start playing it properly today. But I downloaded Mount and Bannerlord 2 last night. So if that helps,
PS5, I'm guessing.
I got the choice, and I selected the PS5 version. Absolutely,
okay.
I did.
Yeah, I was like,
for the difference it'll make in the visuals, none. I shouldn't think. But the download was 1 gig less, so I was all over it like a rash. That's one thing I like about the PS5. They can arrange things and reuse assets, which means the file size is normally less than the previous gen version, even though they're packing more graphical heat. Impressive stuff. Yeah, so I'll report back next week on Mountain Bannerlord 2. I want it to be good, guys. I really do.
When you get this Steam Deck one day, or like a handheld PC game, it's really gonna change your life. It really is, because you would have been playing this game for a very long time at this point. This might have been your Kayak probably wouldn't have got any play if you would have had a Steam Deck.
Maybe not, and they're the same price. And retrospectively, I wonder which one I should have bought. I'm hoping out that Metro Awakening on PSVR 2 is the game that we've kind of been waiting for. It's not the game we've been waiting for. That's Half-Life Alyx, but I'm hoping that it kind of supersedes the game that we've been waiting for. Talking of VR, not that this is directly VR, but give us this next bit of news, Seb.
Okay. Yeah, you gave me the big news story here. Everybody bear with me here. It just keeps getting bigger and better. No Man's Sky is getting another game-changing free update. I can't believe we're talking about No Man's Sky.
Oh, why? It's my show. We'll talk about what I want to talk about.
Games. Named Worlds Part 2, this update available for all players today is the largest to hit the game this year so far, making some sweeping improvements that essentially makes the universe even more varied and interesting than ever. Water has seen significant improvements. For example, new tech means it can generate waves and reflections. Oh my gosh.
I don't think you realize how amazing this is. We won't bore everyone with the details in it, but yeah, another visual and gameplay update has dropped on No Man's Sky.
Hold on. There's a bigger part of the news story I didn't get to. A new Starship Troopers inspired expedition puts the emphasis on combat as you fight back against alien bugs. Okay, so now we can dive into this a little bit. I think that's.
I was hoping that was the bit I was looking forward to mentioning least, because obviously they've seen the success of Helldivers and No Man's Sky.
That's exactly what I was going to get at.
Yeah, No Man's Sky is a very adaptable game. In fact, that they've able to lob in to the expedition element of it all these different kinds of play styles to mix it up a little bit. And to that end, they've been able to kind of half engineer a copy of Helldivers, which is impressive. They had like the Alien, the Xenomorphs in it before, but to go to this next level, I've seen screens and some video. There's a video out there which looks pretty good. But the reason why this is here, No Man's Sky, a game that released in 2016, that took a panning that I've always had a soft spot for. They've stuck to and thrown update after update after update of this. The reason why this is here is we are literally round the corner from them releasing their whole new game, and they're still providing updates for this that literally are bigger than some people's games.
Is the new game like also space centric, or is it something else? Because
from what I've understood of everything that I've read about it and been told about it so far, is that it's basically No Man's Sky, but the scale of it is a lot bigger. It's not a universe exploration game, but they've taken one of the planets and they've made it actual Earth size in terms of its actual size and shape.
Oh, Light No Fire is what it's called, right?
Light No Fire, that's the name of it. So they've used their engine, because as a No Man's Sky veteran, I can see a lot of No Man's Sky elements within the world that they've created. So you get one world. It's actually the actual size of real world Earth, which is mind-blowing in itself. Within that, it looks to be a more fantasy style telling of a story, but locked on one planet. So I think it'll be massively multiplayer online. So you'll be able to make factions. I think you can tame that. The whole thing is almost like the fantasy version of No Man's Sky, for want of a better word, or at least that's how it's kind of selling itself.
I am getting some Elder Scrolls Online vibes by this trailer I'm watching.
I think basically it's the fantasy version of No Man's Sky, which, considering that's round the corner, the fact that they're still dropping No Man's Sky, and let's face it, they've not charged a penny for the content they've dropped on any of it. I don't know where or how they got their money. I guess No Man's Sky sold really well initially in 2016 and they've rolled the cash coaster. That's not to say that it hasn't performed well on Games Pass. It's also performed well subsequently, obviously, since we've got the next Atlas and Beyond updates.
And they keep putting it on every device they possibly can, man.
And they keep putting it on every device they possibly can. I sat down the other day to get a yogurt out of the fridge and ended up playing half hour No Man's Sky on the controls for the fridge. It was unbelievable. But all that to one side, all that said and done, let's park it there, because you snuck out under the wire, which, to be fair, Pastor Longhorn took 2 layers of skin off your fanny, as they call it in the United States of America, with the back sole of his shoe. So you could get out and no one ever accused us. Ever since we obviously got the subs, the budget of the show's gone through the roof.
Production value, man.
Seb, you got some breaking news for us. What is it? Tell us everything.
I think this is the biggest news of the week. If I'm just putting my humble opinion on it,
Hang on, Seb. Bigger than the game that I'm really looking forward to, Precinct, and one of my favorite games of all time, No Man's Sky. You've come in here with some big balls. You've wheeled them in here in a wheelbarrow to say such a claim. Longhorn just looked over at your crotch and then looked at me and raised an eyebrow. I don't know what that means, but it's only going to end in tears.
I legitimately am putting mine on the wheelbarrow, almost like Randy from South Park. whenever he's got inflated, but He said, "I didn't hear no bell." But anyways, yeah, I think the biggest news of the week is the fact that for a limited time only, you can get a game that came out this year for $70 for free if you're a PC gamer, and that's Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. I think that's such a fascinating story of like this was people who made the Arkham series. This was, rock stars in our industry, and their game comes out, and in the tale of not even 6 months, maybe 6 months, this game is now free for PC gamers right now.
It's got a stank to it worse than Avengers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So this this isn't news. This is going free to play. I'll be honest with you. If they wanted this to be a success, they should have got brave. Sorry to everyone listening who probably thought their audio device just jammed. It was my inability to say the word success for some reason. But if they really believed in this as a game and as a platform, they should have got brave enough. And I know it probably would have sank them as a business, but they should have got brave enough to get behind this as free to play from the get go.
And what's so crazy about it, George, is like this ain't even free to play right now, or like free to play. This is like for a limited time only. If you are an Epic user, aka if you also have Amazon Prime, you could just go in there and get the game for free and you automatically own it. So like this ain't even them saying like, hey, we're throwing in the towel, we're making this free to play. This is like saying, hey, we're doing a promotion where we're going to give this game away for PC players who are playing on Epic or playing on Amazon Prime. Go get this game for free while Amazon Prime Day is happening. But I think that's the bigger story of like, it's them throwing in the towel without them throwing in the towel. Like they're saying, like, put it like this. Marvel's Midnight Suns was another game that went free for Epic people for a limited time only. You could just basically, if you're an Epic gamer, you could just go in, grab Marvel's Midnight Suns, start playing it. You own the game now. It's like their version of Game Pass, their version of Game Pass or their version of PlayStation Plus. But like you get to own it for the end of time as long as you're an Epic user. So this is their version of that. And for Marvel's Midnight Suns, a game that came out almost a year and a half ago to do that, it's understandable. And also all the stories of it, didn't meet the value that they set for it. That's understandable. This is a game that came out this year, man. This is a game that came out this year by Rocksteady. And
yeah, that launched all the build up to the game. Now, either good or bad or fair or foul. Obviously, it's caught the wrong end of player critique and critique since the day it was announced, basically. And
deservedly so. I mean, like, I think people were pissed, absolutely mind-blowingly mad that a team with this pedigree that took so long since their last game came out with a games as a service game.
You buy a studio for the games it produced, but you can't buy a studio for the talent that's within it, because that talent that's within it is free to move. And this is a problem that I've noticed in Microsoft going all the way back to the Rare days. They snagged Rare, which on the face of it feels like quite a shrewd move. But when the people that created the actual magic at Rare leave, all you've got is a name. The same with Rocksteady. You get these people that are attached to such high-profile games as the Arkham trilogy, and you think, wow, how can they fail? So you snap up a company like that. You think, oh, this is brilliant. But then the people that are in it, the actual talent that created those games, are free to move unless you contractually tie them down, but that can only be for a finite amount of time. Then
wait, who snapped up Rocksteady? I mean, they've been owned by the same people, though. I'm like, it's not like they got bought or an acquisition, you know?
I know, but they went from a studio that was, sorry, that was the wrong term of phrase. They went from a studio that was at the back of the queue to a studio that's suddenly become WB's jewel in their crown then, so to speak. They went from someone who's putting out a little bit of a small superhero game. That superhero game actually redefined how we perceive superhero games going forward. It changed the script on everything. Prior to that,
for sure.
Prior to that, superhero games were throwaway movie tie-in adaptions. Everybody knew were going to be pretty ropey when they landed. Off the back of Arkham Asylum and navigating the 2 follow-up games and the Montreal developed sort of interstitial game that was a prequel, which is my favorite, if I'm honest.
I like the game a lot. I don't think it's my favorite, but
each to their own.
Yeah, for sure. for sure. I was like, man, over City? Oh.
Yeah. I will pull on my big boy Lederhosen and go toe-to-toe with anybody. I think Origins is a great game. But anyway,
I'll give you this. It's the best Christmas game of all time.
Yes, back to the original point I was trying to make. You're right, they weren't snapped up, but they pushed themselves to the front. And WB probably thought, how can we fail? Because we've got this talent in here. But what they didn't do is they didn't lock the talent down. And I do believe that's a mistake when people go acquisition chasing, that they don't lock the talent down. So the name that was associated with bringing that game out, the studio, isn't the thing that you're actually looking to get. I know there's a lot of talented people in there, and all those jigsaw pieces make up the larger picture, which is a completed game. But when you lose that direction, you're struggling.
I think if I remember correctly, I think someone in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like stories came out that they lost talent not because they didn't lock them down correctly. It's like they lost talent because they chose this direction. It's like
in this instance, they lost talent because they went in a direction the talent didn't want to go. I understand that, but I had a wider point of in the industry, the mistake that video game publishers make is when they acquire a studio, they're basically paying all that money for the name, but it's not the name that matters. It's the people within that team that made that game.
For sure.
Which is the goal you're going for, which is one of the reasons why I never have understood why people go for studio acquisitions. Because if I was a budding publisher or developer and I was looking at bolstering up my talent, I would find out who the movers and shakers were at that studio and basically offer them a job. I don't want all your niff-naff and trivia. I don't want to end up buying Doreen, the cleaner lady's contract. I just want you two guys at the top of the business, the director and whoever you want to bring from the animation and gameplay departments across with you. Everyone else, we can just backfill. I don't want your studio. Stick it up your back pipe.
I think it's the counterpoint is like, I think, and this could be completely incorrect as far as like their way of thinking. And I think they look at people like anyone's replaceable and there's so much talent out there because like people are developing games now on a higher level and it's easier for you to find a new developer now than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they're looking at that aspect and they're also thinking, IPs right now are gold. IP, like you buy a studio because that studio will get you that IP. Because they own that IP usually, unless it's a licensed thing like WB in this case, which means like if you bought WB, you would get all the WB assets right now. So I'm like, if you buy something, you get the IPs behind it, and the IPs behind it give you a cachet of like, I can create gold with that. It's like right now, I think Spider-Man, for instance, in the movie industry, like Sony keeps making these a sorry excuse for movies because they know that they have it in their contract that if they stop making Spider-Man movies or Spider-Man centric movies, then Spider-Man, the IP reverts back to Marvel.
Yeah.
So I'm like, they will put out bad things in order to keep an IP. So IPs are like more of the focus than anything else. But I get your point because I think I think you have the correct thinking of like, keep the talent. What's good? What good is Fable if you don't have the talent that made Fable great?
Yeah,
I get that
again,
completely.
and that's my point with Microsoft. They went in and bought Rare. They went and bought Lionhead or whatever they're called these days. And yeah, great, but they didn't lock down any of the staff. Like they kept Peter Molyneux swinging around for a little bit. They used him in completely the wrong way. They put him in a microphone and put him in front of people, and he was a Sean Murray of his era, and he just talked a load of rubbish. They filtered him off and realised, but. You know, he was the guy who came up with the idea of Fable, or at least one of the guys within that studio that came up with the idea of Fable. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. But they lock Fable down, but they don't lock down any of the good ideas department that actually made that game good in the first place, which I find startling. And they keep doing it. You know, did it with Rare, did it with Fable, and they continue to keep doing it. And I just don't understand when any studio is actually going to wake up and realize we're chasing the wrong thing here. I get your point about the IPs, but a lot of these studios' grip on the IPs is tentative at best. It's probably a rolling one game deal based on the success of that one game. To swing it back to Suicide Squad, I mean, that game had a loaded deck against it from the get-go, Seb. It really did.
I bring this up for one thing, to retrospectively look back at Suicide Squad and look at, you know, look at its failures, to be blunt, but also like I see the same thing happen with Concord. I cannot see the writing on the wall with Concord. I hear people are like playing it and a lot of people say, hey, it's a decent game. But I heard the mixed reviews on Suicide Squad as well, where a lot of people were saying
I'm hearing
Suicide
like
Squad
good.
is.
I'm hearing surprisingly good things about Concord. I honestly thought that would hit, and to use yours and Bobby's term, it would be seriously mid. I expected I expected nothing good to come from Concord. The initial teaser concept looked cool. The cinematics that they showed taking place between the characters and the world that they were set in, it got me really excited. I actually wanted to see almost like a single player Guardians of the Galaxy type driven story set within that universe. So rather than those cinematic trailers or little interstitial movies that we're going to get fed on a weekly, monthly basis to keep us hyped up for the story. I'll be honest, guys, stop wasting your time. No one who plays Concord's really, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the wrong demographic, but I feel that the character design and the voice acting, the animation and everything's created some characters I can really get behind. Do any of their sort of characteristics and traits I saw in those movies extend into the gameplay functionality? Not at all, really. So why do I care about this big guy? Why do I care about this woman? Oh, because they've got a certain move set that you like playing with. I'm already losing interest talking about the game, let alone playing it. So I don't quite know how, after it's hit, which will probably do quite well, because as we talked last week, Sony are going to stick Concord on everything with wheels on it between here and Timbuktu. It's going to be
I
on
think the opposite, though.
What, they're going to hide this game?
No, I think they are going to advertise it because that's what they do.
Yeah.
But I think despite that, it still has that stank to it right now, even with people saying,
well, that's ultimately one of these weird moments where we agree. But this is ultimately where I was going to say it's going to do well in the short to midterm. By well, I throw a bunch of caveats on that. It's not going to bomb. Okay, but it's long-term.
I think it might.
It's long-term staying power as a game that's going to be in people's rotation. It's just not got enough about it to kick off Fortnite, to kick off the yearly COD update, to kick off Warzone, to kick off Overwatch, to kick off Rocket League, to kick off Helldivers, and to name so many more that exist out there on the PC space, and numerous ones I probably forgot to mention. How does it get a grip? It can't. And this is what boggles my mind about Sony's sort of free-to-play chase. You've got to come up with an absolute banger. They almost did it with Helldivers, but the amount of fall-off I'm seeing on that game right now is staggering. So it didn't even have enough. It stuck the landing, and it will be known as a popular game that people enjoyed in 2024. But will people still be talking about Helldivers in 2026? I doubt it. They're certainly going to be talking about Helldivers a lot more than they are about Concord.
Yeah, here's my thing about like Concord. And here's why I think, like, you mentioned this question with the Suicide Squad earlier, and I think this is what's going to hold it back, at least from hitting a stride that Helldivers experienced. Like, Concord is appealing to people who are used to not paying for games, and this one is a $50 entry point. And I think that's really going to put it on the back nine, so to speak. And
what was Helldivers MSRP in the States?
I think it was 40.
Right. To me,
but it had popularity, though. It had a popularity behind it.
But if Concord thinks it can be more than that, I think that's a misstep from Sony, especially in their guidance of where they think the MSRP or RRP should be. I think that's a mistake. To me, it's got to be a $30 game. It's got to be no more than Helldivers at $40, and I'm sure I picked Helldivers up in the UK for like $32 GBP, which is.
Oh, I'm mistaken. Okay, so like evidently they're both going to be the same price. They're both going to be they're both for 40.
Okay, right. Well, that to me is exactly where Concord should launch. Any more, and it's done. At that price, it's kind of got that end of the month payday vibe about it, where you've got that much money, where you live like a rock star for a couple of days, so then you live like a pauper for the rest of the month. And I've got a feeling people are going to load up on Concord like rock stars and then like hate themselves because that's all they've got to play for the rest of the month. And I wish it was a different story, but sadly it's not. And if you
Here-
create
Here's my
something-
problem though. It's like Overwatch 2 is free to play. And
I completely agree, and has got almost exactly the same gimmick. Has a established audience across the first game to this one. I mean, if we're talking obliquely here, I mean, Overwatch 2 was a misstep in every single way, but they did it and they committed to it, and it's out there as a thing now. How people think Concord can even take 5% of its oxygen, I just don't know. Unless that groundswell of frustrated Overwatch players are looking for something new and happen to own a PC or a PlayStation.
oh man, and even more so, I'm like, I just looked this up. Marvel Rivals, which is the exact same thing, except with Marvel skins on it, it's going to be free to play as well.
I get your point about how they're the same. I actually think that Concord has some production values over that Marvel's game, but that's maybe just personal opinion on what I like to see.
Yeah, I was about to say, and this has IPs that people care about, though. I mean, like,
that's what's got it the legs. I think that if Sony were ever to do like a free to play properly, I think they made a mistake. Whether it was going to be free to play or not, I think they made a mistake dropping The Last of Us massively multiplayer online game, or the online game that they had planned that was the faction spin-off. I think if that had hit around the same time as Series 2, I think it'd be a license to print money. And if that game was only mid, I think that the franchise has got enough going on across every pantheon now.
I don't think you tanked that franchise. Is like, and I think if you saw that they have early testers and like they do like early reviewers come in and check that game out. So I'm like, if you check that game out and everyone's screaming 6 and 7s at you and such like that, I think you listen to that and then I think like you bite the bullet and drop that project, because like that right now is your crown jewel of, you don't put out mid God of Wars, Last of Us, or even Spider-Man's at this point.
Does a multiplayer spin-off of your main franchise have to be a 10 out of 10?
You don't taint the brand is the thing. It's like, you don't taint the brand. I think like...
What? So that means if Last of Us 3 comes out and it's in-house critic reviews push it to a 6 or a 7, they can Last of Us 3?
They don't can Last of Us 3, but here... Okay, so... I think there are levels to IPs, right? So like The Last of Us is on a higher level than Fallout right now. Like, I think everyone in gaming considers that Last of Us is top tier, Fallout is on a tier below it. You can argue about what tier below it you want, but like
it's a crazy thought, but I'm inclined to agree with you.
Yeah, but then I'm like, a part of that is 76. Like, New Vegas maybe had that argument of like, oh, they're actually probably closer to the same tier. So Fallout 76 drops that down. And even if Fallout 76 was like a 8 out of 10 as opposed to its initial probably 5 out of 10s, it would have still dropped that bar down, because like for some reason it's like multiplayer is seen in that pantheon of like, it does lower the bar down a bit. It's like Ghost of Tsushima is a good example of like everyone thinks of Ghost of Tsushima's like how good it is as a single player experience. Hardly anyone talks about that multiplayer, and the multiplayer was even good on that,
Yeah, I mean the way they introduced it and everything, I thought was really cool. Was that advertised enough for it to ever be a success, though? I think is the biggest issue with that Ghost of Tsushima multiplayer add-on. And even when it launched, it was launched almost like an afterthought, wasn't it? It was like oh, by the way, got this out and it's really good, by the way, and we think you might like it. But it was hidden.
Fable's another one. They brought out a multiplayer Fable, tainted the brand. Even if it was good, it taints what that game is. It takes it down a level. And I'm like, yeah. I think multiplayer is good.
The third game and Journey took Fable to a very dark place. Yeah,
took its legs out from underneath it. It's like, Elder Scrolls is another one that I think is a great series, but Elder Scrolls Online has kind of tainted that brand a little bit, you know? Everyone, you get what I mean? It's like everyone, like,
I'll be honest, and unless you scratch around, it's very hard to even know that Elder Scrolls Online exists, though.
Now, here's the thing, though. When Elder Scrolls is something people used to get excited for if like a hint of it showed up at a showcase. Now, when it shows up at an Xbox showcase, we know it's Elder Scrolls Online. We're like, oh, you know, it's the down. It is. Elder Scrolls is now the down moment of the Xbox showcase where you're like, okay, this is the potty break moment. You know, like Elder Scrolls. It's like, I'm not saying nothing bad about multiplayer, even though I'm a single player focused guy. It's like single player IPs, when they stay single player, have a luster to it that they kind of keep there. It's like, I think Horizon's multiplayer is going to further taint the brand rather than raise it to a next level.
Yeah, and that, I suppose, using that logic and sort of rolling it across the other game that we talked about, Last of Us, yeah, I guess it could do. And I look at that Horizon multiplayer project, although picking out the rumors, will we just sold a misstep there? Was that Lego game all along? Because there's an awful lot of development going on there. And I'll be honest with you, not like a great amount of people. So if we see anything out of them additional, I'm going to be shocked. But a multiplayer online version of Horizon, I mean, what could it be? It could only ever be.
It's Fallout 76 with in that world, you know.
What I see it being more of, and it's the only thing that kind of makes sense, is this Aloy's not in it.
No. I think this is Monster Hunter meets.
And that's what I was saying. If they could create like a Monster Hunter game style where you and a couple of mates go out and try and bring down a Thunderjaw together, I don't know, it kind of breaks the in-game lore of how strong Aloy is or how strong some of these dinosaurs are, I suppose. But, you know, it's only a game at the end of the day. Probably not to get too sweaty over the details. But I can see that being an enjoyable game. I just don't think the universe has got enough. And I like the universe. And wherever RGT is now, he's safe. He's away from Longhorn. But wherever he is now, I know he loves the universe these days. But is the universe... Has the universe penetrated the meniscus of relevance enough where people are going to get hot and sweaty about getting that latest new online version of Horizon? I don't think that it is. And therefore, already that product has failed.
You know, PlayStation is trying to diversify their IPs in really interesting ways. The Last of Us with all of them with TV shows adaptations and also movie adaptations, and then they're also trying to spread those adaptations out into different diverse projects, which I think is admirable. But I think with Horizon, you need to focus on the quality of your mainline single player game versus like. Even if this multiplayer game, which I think actually could bring in a different set of audience that you haven't been trying to appeal for, which is, I think, what they're trying to do is like, I think they're tired of saying, hey, we're getting overshadowed in the single player space. If we take this concept and we make Monster Hunter out of it, we can maybe get the people who want Monster Hunter type things in between the Monster Hunter releases. And I think that's what they're trying to go for. And I don't necessarily, because I think they saw, what was the game EA produced? I think it was Wild Hearts. Mm-hmm. They saw Wild Hearts had a spark of success before Wild Hearts kind of crashed out on itself.
Yeah.
And but I think
to be honest, Wild Hearts just burnt its own oxygen supply.
Yeah. And I think, it's like they saw Wild Hearts and they're like, we could do that. We have an IP that we could do that on. It's just, and if we capture that audience and we can maybe elevate, they're thinking in the reverse of what I am, of like, we can take that multiplayer audience and help elevate this single player IP that's struggling right now and take it to the next level. There hasn't been many instances where that's worked. It's usually the opposite.
This topic has rolled and morphed and changed into something different.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of my sort of concern at the moment is all the big three console manufacturers, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, have kind of, for some reason as well, and I kind of get it because I've said this numerous times on the show. Today, in large corporations, you can't just rock up with a new idea because they're going to say to you, where's the proof that this is going to be a success? Because we can't let the shareholders down. They're going to need their money. So whatever you bring to the table needs to be a banger. So if you bring a new IP, you've got no proven historical track records of merch that you can sell, of penetration of the game, of further marketing rights in movies and TV shows. You're starting from scratch again. So I get it that when they say, oh, we've got a new IP, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo look at it and go, yeah, but we can't really forecast that's what's going to get us. See if you can make another Horizon game. See if you can make another Halo game. See if you can make another Mario game. See if you can make another Zelda game. That's been going on for some time now, but we seem to have simmered down to probably 3 or 4 classic faces at each house.
I do agree with you.
They are running them so dry. Create a new IP so in 10 years you've got something else to push, because in 10 years' time, if you think people are going to care about Last of Us after you've ran it dry, Halo after you've ran it dry, Gears of War after you've ran it dry, God of War after you've ran it dry, Astrobot after you've ran it dry, you're on another planet if you think they're still going to be able to market those franchises and mascots in 10 years if they don't leave them alone.
I do agree with you. But on the other side of the fence, I do think I think we're getting case examples where in the development cycle from the PS4 generation till now, where we have seen really good new IPs. I would probably say Nintendo Nintendo. I usually give them flack for on the show, but like what they didn't have to make Splatoon. Like Splatoon is a brand new IP. They had no moniker of like whether or not that was going to succeed.
They had to make Splatoon.
Yeah, but I think what I'm saying is like when we were talking about the horror example last week, I think like Splatoon is almost that for them. Where this is a first person shooter that is essentially different. It's the same as a lot of first person shooters on the market in a lot of ways, but like they haven't had experience making that. So I'm like, they came out and they made a first person shooter and they made you care, or at least a lot of people. I don't care about Splatoon, but they made a lot of people care about a new IP. I think they swung and missed a little bit with ARMS, but they also tried with ARMS, and I give them full credit for that as well.
I feel sorry that ARMS didn't land the way it should have done. It got probably more penetration than it deserved at the time, because there was very few Switch games that kind of utilized the remotes the way that ARMS did.
Yeah, for sure.
And for that, I thought that ARMS was quite a bold way of not only showcasing your new peripherals and your system in general, but also a bold step into what a future Super Punch-Out might look like. And I think that game deserved praise. It was hollow because it was always going to be, because of the setting and the game style they chose. But I thought it shone as an example of trying something different. I think that an ARMS 2 probably would have put a lot of the doubters like me to bed if they could have added another level of granularity to the gameplay system.
Yeah, and on the counterpoint, like examples of trying something new that doesn't work is, what was it? Days Gone for PlayStation. Tried something new, didn't work. It didn't feel.
Did that not work though? Because
it's a cult classic, but you see they're not making a sequel, and that's the indication that it didn't work. If
you see, that bog was like it launched in a rough state, and that will slap a tombstone in the ground of any game almost immediately. But
most for sure, yeah.
It did kind of crawl back from. I think there was more to tell. I think that game was clumsily put together on the engine that was chosen. I thought that we'd passed an era where we cut to a black screen before we got an in-game cinematic, which boggles my mind. I know it was PS4, but everyone else had moved past that, so why hadn't that? It was made
on bad timing. It was bad timing, man.
It was on an engine that probably wasn't appropriate as well for what they're planning on doing, or at least scaling it up, which held it back. But it did enough to get a PS5 patch. Deacon St. John, yeah, he's not the sort of guy you can stick on a poster, is he?
We're going to get off topic here, but I think Days Gone was a generation before its time. I think if Days Gone with a little fine tuning would have came out, let's say this year, or like with the PS5, PS5.
If that had more polish and been able to move to either Unreal 5 or maybe even, Guerrilla's in-house engine, the Decima engine that Hideo used, I think that would have
added, like, the zombies would have felt different. I'm like, the world would have been different. We're in a different level of storytelling than we were back then too. So I'm like, I think it would have hit differently in today's society. And also, I think one of the things that held Days Gone back is like we had a oversaturation at that time of zombies, just across the board.
Yeah, agreed. When it launched, everyone was, and I agree, I was kind of sick of it. And initially, I think the thing that doesn't help Days Gone, sorry to bump back to it, is the first the first 5 hours of that game.
Absolute slog.
Are an absolute slog. And I do not blame anybody for not wanting to find out whether they could redeem themselves after wasting 5 hours of their life. So I totally get why people bounced off it instantaneously. But I slogged through that 5 hours and then couldn't put it down. But getting through that first 5 hours, you got a patience of steel, especially when it launched, because I ended up riding around on a motorbike for the first third of that game with zero noise.
That's crazy.
Which was bizarre.
That's crazy. But no, I do think that's indicative of what we were talking about. To bring this back around to like of like innovation and wanting to try new things. I think like we got Ghost of Tsushima, brand new IP. We got Days Gone, brand new IP. Horizon at the time of, Horizon's relatively a brand new IP. We just gotten 2 installments of it and a remaster for some reason. But like, I'm glad that's a brand new IP.
I'm glad you forgot the VR climbing game because
I'm trying to forget that one.
I want everyone to forget Call of the Mountain. What an absolute mess. What dog's breakfast.
I'm trying to forget that one. I'm like, so they're putting out new IPs. Xbox's new IPs aren't substantial enough to really mention because like their new IPs are so niche focused. It's like you have your flight simulators and different things like that, your Groundeds, your games like that. It's just they're so niche focused. I think Xbox's problem isn't that they're not producing great games. It's just that there need to be a wider market for the games that they put out. And so I'm like, try to appeal to a wider market. But like to go back to the Suicide Squad thing, because I do think this is interesting. It's like WB is in this weird spot where they're in their transition phase, where they announced that they were trying to come back and put a lot of their games going forward are going to be more games as a service centric. I don't know how in the 7 blazes of, Cerberus are you going to look at Suicide Squad and say, yeah, that's the trend we need to follow, when Hogwarts Legacy looked you dead in the face and said, we're the most successful game of last year.
Well, I was
and we're
about
a single
to say,
focus game.
the best thing that happened to Suicide Squad was Hogwarts Legacy, because it saved that studio from being completely broken. Because that game made absolute gangbusters of cash. They're wheeling that in Walmart trolleys. That's still making bang now, even on the Switch. That's like still in the top 10 of best-selling games. And they did well. I mean, Hogwarts Legacy, my opinion on it is it's mid, if I'm honest with you. It's mid.
I'm right there with the mid section. It's just I'm curious though. I think like this, and I brought up Concord earlier to ask this really, to bring this back to a full-fledged question, which is probably the question of the episode here, is like, has the games as a service bubble popped? Are we in an era to where like, can a games as a service succeed when we got an example of Helldivers really breaking the mold and being a success story, but then we've gotten several examples over the last 12 months of all of them coming out and failing. And if like Suicide Squad, which is done by one of the most successful studios in games at the time right now, and then if that doesn't succeed, what does when you also have the IP of DC behind it? I'm like, can it succeed, or are they destined to fail?
If Suicide Squad had come out and utilized maybe the Gotham Knights engine, and Gotham Knights had utilized maybe the Suicide Squad engine, and they'd kind of done a bit of a flip.
You think so? I think they're still been in the same spot. One feels like Crackdown 3, and the other one, which is it feels rough today.
Yeah, I know it feels rough. I'm not here to sing the praises of Gotham Knights in any way. But Gotham Knights town, Gotham Knights gameplay was way more Arkham styled than anything we got in Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad ended up being leaping around, and the traversal has been one of the things that people were most sort of aggrieved about, that actually in gameplay and in review has been met with, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's still pretty horrendous, let's face facts. And I think that Gotham Knights, maybe if it had used the cast of characters from Suicide Squad, it would have been different enough. I think if they'd maybe crowbarred in a more single-player centric story, maybe that would have been enough. But by the time you rock up with Arkham, with the Rocksteady studio, the Suicide Squad name, some really great visuals in terms of the trailers that we saw and all that sort of stuff, it was looking okay. But when we got our first gameplay footage, I knew straight away this thing was going to be a stinky pig. And I don't know why. I mean, there's all sorts of rumors attached to Suicide Squad. It ended up being Suicide Squad and Metropolis because it was a failed Superman game.
Let me ask you this. I think this is an interesting question. Like, I have the opportunity to play Suicide Squad because it's free on PC right now. If this was the tables turned and you were able to play it on PS5, would you be playing it right now? Like, in the what are we going to be playing this week? Would you be saying definitively, I'm going to download Suicide Squad and play this?
On Xbox or PlayStation, it's never going to be on Nintendo Switch. But if this was free to play on either of those, would I consider downloading it and playing it? If it was free? Absolutely not.
Oh man, I think that speaks volumes, right?
Yeah. Well, as you posed the question, I was thinking, what world would I have to be in?
Would you play Dave the Diver or Suicide Squad right now?
Yeah, well, it's Dave the Diver. Would I play Mountain Bannerlord 2 or Suicide Squad? Well, I'm playing Mountain Banner Blade 2 or whatever it's called. It had interest to me until I saw what the gameplay hook was. As soon as I saw exactly what that was and how that would be made up, I didn't want to know about it. What I would say is Gotham Knights was also a game I was never going to play, but I was closer to playing that than I ever have been Suicide Squad. So make of that what you will.
I actually played Gotham Knights, and I cannot tell you the ire that I felt like playing that game. And I was the kind of person who, like, I have to play a Batman game all the way through because I got to see what the story is. I just got to. It's ingrained in me. And
sorry, mate. Go
ahead.
I was just going to say, if Suicide Squad had launched and it'd been slightly different, maybe it'd been like you pick one of the characters from the Suicide Squad, you get your little base in Metropolis. Admittedly, it's not multiplayer and it's not the kind of continual cash generator they were chasing. But just to save face at Rocksteady, if that game had ditched its multiplayer ideas and had chased down more of a single player co-op type strategy, I could see it working. As you work through the game, you're looking to recruit the other members to your team. They fill out your little base that you have underground in Metropolis. Let's say that's the setting.
Basically make it Saints Row. Yeah,
kind of. And then you build towards then, maybe you get 2 or 3 of them and you go after the Flash. Maybe you get 4 or 5 of them, you go after as you build up the team, you go after slightly higher scalps. Like ultimately, the scalp that you're going for is God-made skin in Superman. Technically, there should be no way you can beat him, but you're going in there with your 5 or 6 guys that you've leveled up through the game. They've got the different pace styles. They each bring something different and unique. You can switch between them, or they're AI controlled. In the meantime, you're doing little crimes and little bits and bobs, in game. Oh, well, to beat the Flash, we need this vortex manipulator. Okay, where's that? Well, Star Labs have got a place in Metropolis. Let's break in. Let's get it. Let's bring it back. This is how we're going to crack the boss of the Flash. That, to me, and I'm a single player guy, as are you, has way more intrigue. And especially if they then use the Gotham in-game storytelling or the Arkham in-game storytelling that they're famous for, and utilize some of that deep cut DC history and pepper that within the story like they're really good at. That to me could have been a really well thought of game. But whether it was pressure from WB, whether it was pressure from shareholders, whether it was they just wanted to ditch that single player narrative themselves and start creating something new, I don't think we'll ever know, or at least not for another 4 or 5 years. We'll wait for NDAs to time out.
Man, that documentary would be fire. Absolutely fire.
Wouldn't it? It's a shame that, the gaming industry isn't big enough to break the meniscus of mainstream media a bit more, and exposés and documentaries like this be put out more. I would watch the living wheels off of them. Unfortunately, we have to go to places like YouTube for that, and you have to wade through a lot of chelp before you find something, highbrow on YouTube.
Yeah. I think like what you were saying there is kind of indicative of like the point I was making with the multiplayer emphasis. Is like you like, because you said like, like it sort of felt different, and it may have been perceived different if it wasn't a multiplayer game. And I know this is 2 single player focused guys is talking about this, but there is that certain perception when like you have an IP like this and then you hear that it's a multiplayer. It's like, for some reason, its luster just drops. And I think that's across the board, because I think we expect, like multiplayer games can be high level, but they're always popcorn flicks. They're not there to give you a intricate story. They're there to give you a good time. And I think like there's a saying, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. And I think that's like multiplayer games in general. It's like, for oftentimes you're here for a good time, but not a long one. It's like, unless you're playing like Fortnite and such like that, where it's got your hooks into you. But then they continuously pump out reasons for the good times to keep rolling in different ways. So I think like Suicide Squad, and with this, it's like season pass, they just added a Mr. Freeze pack, I believe, or Mr. Freeze centric like levels, or I guess you could say season pass. Then they added before that they did the Joker, but it was a different Joker than what we got in the Arkham universe, because it's like a different world. None of it feels right. None of it feels good. Like it's the thing of like Fallout 76 feels like it dilutes a little bit of what goes on in mainline Fallout games, because like in multiplayer, you always have to worry about what's canon and what's not canon. And in this world, in the Suicide Squad, like bringing any Joker in this world where you already established in the Arkham games what happened to this Joker, you got connected to him. You had a really heartfelt story with this Joker, for good or worse, especially in Arkham Knight, whether or not you want to like that game or not. Like, you went through a through arc with the Joker in this game. And then for them to just say, hey, we're turning that all on his head, and we're just going to bring in a new Joker because we need that cachet in this style of game. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good,
We need the money for the Christmas party, so we're gonna ram you a Joker, and we're gonna ram you a Mr. Freeze, because goddamn it, you need to do something.
It doesn't feel good, and that feels like the multiplayer thing. It feels like that.
Yeah, well, it feels like a tacked on cosmetic that they're desperate for people to download, and that's exactly what it is. I think that on a slightly different topic, like multiverses are cool because it gives you a great excuse to tell different stories, but also it leads to a hell of a lot of laziness. Like, oh, wow, we just brought this character back because multiverse reasons. But it's a slightly different one than the one you saw die. But hey, do you know what? He's got green hair, red lips, and a white face, so you're going to love him, whatever. Like the multiverse in the Suicide Squad is basically a thin veil to use to literally rob every single penny out of your bank account while you get all the different skins for all the different bad guys you always wanted to be that they didn't have the aspiration to put in the game originally. That's all DLC ever has been. And, we've got a show we're working on where we're going to, talk about DLC, but just feels really disingenuous, to be honest. If Suicide Squad wasn't enough of a car crash, getting people's arms up the back for their favorite character, it just feels disgusting. But, we should have seen it coming, shouldn't we? As taillights follow headlights, we should have known that was going to happen within 6 months of that game's launch, whether it be a success or not. We were going to get rammed some absolute filth.
Yeah, it's like, it's the tale of two sides, though, because I'm like, Helldivers hit a really successful marker and it gave like a lot of games as service people hope. It gave them like ammo to say, hey, this is the model, this thing can work. We like don't take away everything we want in this style of game. We still want it, just do it like this. And then Suicide Squad makes you think this is never going to work. It feels like the same question you asked with Game Pass last week is like, is Game Pass destined to fail? I'm almost like I'm at that question with games as a service now. Is that games as a service as a model outside of Fortnite and all that, is it destined to fail? Like, can a new games as a service exist in 2024 and beyond?
Listen, like the simple answer is, yeah, of course it can. The harder answer is, when do we think it might turn up? And like, who knows? No one saw Fortnite coming. That was the right moment. That was PUBG.
Lightning in a bottle.
It was lightning in a bottle. It was PUBG pushing everyone. It was Epic seeing something within the PUBG landscape that they could quickly incorporate into their, at the time, quickly failing experiment, by the way. Mm-hmm. As everyone famously knows, Fortnite was never meant to be a battle royale game. Far from it. But in the midst of its beta, they added a battle royale mode, and it went off gangbusters. I think it helped that PUBG wasn't on PlayStation at the time, so PlayStation owners wanted some of that battle royale action. Admittedly, they had to go with the Fisher-Price, my first shooting game choice, but ended up finding within it a pretty hooky gameplay mechanic, and certainly something
for sure.
that, as a kid, you're all over like a rash. Can something come in and beat that? Well, we don't know what the next thing looks like, so the simple answer is yes. I suppose my sort of kickback would be, but when?
Yeah, I'm so conflicted on this. It's interesting. I do think there is case studies that could be had on this topic, because I'm like, yes, we see examples where it could be a success, but we see far more that die on the vine before they can actually get going, or like they're dead upon arrival, or like they're dead when their trailer hits, because like people just see that as evil now. And, you can debate on whether or not that's appropriate or not, but like it feels like we're in a state to where like the gamer appetite has changed so drastically. But George, like we talked about that. I feel like I want to ask you something, because I think like this is the other thing here. We're celebrating a shopper holiday, Amazon Prime. What gamer things would you be interested in buying? Like, is there anything on Prime that would get your mummy interest?
It's weird that you asked that, because I was sort of swimming around on it earlier. There was a website I was on that had kind of solidified the deals down to be gaming centric, because there's a lot of tat on there, but to keep it gamer centric, I had a look at some of the failed games that were quite cheap in price and thought, nah. I had a look at some of the non-genuine tap peripherals that they try and ram down your throat, and I kind of thought, nah. I had a look at some of the TVs and the TV technology that sat within the Prime deal right now, and there were some things that raised an eyebrow, but they're not impulse purchases. They're sort of thick end of $1,000.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know what? I see people say a TV's throwaway, and it kind of is. You know, the longer you watch it, the less it is an hour. So you kind of feel like you're making a good deal for yourself. But a TV is an investment to me. And that was the only thing really that I'm either looking to buy. I'm not even looking to buy it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the 4K Sony set I've got. Let's face it. Prime lives to suck people's money out of their pockets to replace an item that didn't need replacing in the first place. But no, the only thing on there that kind of slightly piqued my interest was some of the well-priced TV sets.
Okay.
My girlfriend's in the market for a new TV. Probably a slightly...
Well, what kind of TV were you thinking about getting her? Because I think like I wanted to bring this back to video games. Are you thinking of leaning towards the Samsung model so you can just like...
No, well, I normally probably would have looked for a Sony or a Samsung, but when I was on that Prime deals, it actually brought up a Philips Ambilight 4K model.
That's not bad.
Relatively small, 43-inch. I know that Philips aren't at the cutting edge. We did a whole episode about this called 4K TV getting ready for next gen, and you can hear my sort of deep dives on television if you really want to go there. But
are you an enthusiast or are you kind of like surface level?
I'm a casual enthusiast of TV,
okay, gotcha.
Picture and setup and all that sort of jazz. And that's really only being born in the right era where I've seen the transitions. It's not so I'm an expert. I've just been lucky enough to be born in the era where you're kind of aware of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I know they're not the cutting edge, white hot edge of TV technology per se, but they've always had a nice color mix at Sony. Their interpretation of what a white is and what a black is has always been good. You don't need to tweak the settings in a Philips too much. And the Ambilight is a gimmick, but it's a great gimmick. In a world where we're running LEDs behind everything, the Ambilight saves you all the aggro and actually puts the right colors on the wall. It makes a nice ambiance. It also stretches the screen out a bit. Having used a similar gimmick on my own Sony TV, I got a third-party sort of color matching solution for it. Do you know what? It's great, and it really lifts that corner of the room when you're watching TV on it. So, and I think this was like $399 for a smart 4K TV.
That's not bad.
All the apps loaded, and I think it was about 43 inches as well. So, I mean,
that's not bad.
Yeah, you know, for a small room, not great distance viewing, and for someone who probably doesn't want to feel overpowered by the set as well, I think it's probably a great choice.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
What about you? What have you been adding to your basket on Amazon Prime?
Wait, I really haven't super shopped on Amazon Prime, at least like for Prime Day this year. Guilty pleasure of mine is like lately I've been looking at people can't see this, but like all these like lights that people produce now, such as like this one on this side where like...
So you are a Prime Ambilight customer.
Oh my goodness. I'm loving like the neon movement now is so cool to me. Like so in my game room I have some neon lights, but like in the studio shot behind me, for the people who are listening, I have like a DualSense controller that's in neon LED lights right here, and I'm like, oh, I love that look. And I saw one that had like the Fallout logo on it. I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. That one looks pretty cool. I saw a Mortal Kombat like finish him one. I was like, oh, for $20, I'm like, man, that one must be pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
But more, I find that less is more in these sort of things, but I often want to lean towards the more is more. So I'm trying to hold myself back a little bit. But also, like, I think controllers are like the better buy for Prime Day, if I'm being honest, because like,
yeah, do you know what? If you can get $10 off an official controller, no matter what the platform, you're doing well for yourself.
Oh yeah, I also like I found that there's also like really cool like third-party controllers, like, you know, this is called the unofficial controller. So really cool unofficial controller that I like I like using now is the 8-bit Big Moto. Have you seen these?
The 8, spell it for me and I'll have a quick look while you talk about it.
Okay, so 8 as in the number 8, and BITDO, and then ultimate is the controller. And so this is a controller that is basically...
I've heard of 8-bit do, but oh, wow.
So Yeah, so this is an Xbox, like they make Xbox controllers and Switch controllers specifically, and PC. They usually work for both. But like this is like a controller. It comes with its own charging dock usually, and
Actually, the cleanliness of the way it sits in its charging dock is flawless.
oh, for sure. I happen to, and like ergonomically, it feels just like a regular Xbox controller. It's a little smaller in the hands, but I don't have super massive hands if I'm being honest. Like these hands are ready to eat for everyone, but they're not the size. They're not like super big or anything.
Do you know one of the
like
best
that.
ways to make your hands bigger?
What is up?
Just hold them a little bit closer to your eye.
And then pop it.
No, just looks bigger. You don't need to slap yourself. Listen, I've had Pastor Longhorn. He's knocking at the door. He's come in holding his guitar. So I guess it's time for a peek in what we affectionately call Pastor Longhorn's smock. What's nestled between some cult paraphernalia and a dodgy copy of Battlefield Earth this week. Just as much as a mouthful as Endor. But these are new release highlights for the week 21st of July to July 28th, 2024. Listeners, these are out in digital, physical, or will be by the time this podcast is in your feed, but could be region dependent. Now, it's not often you reach into the crotch area of a grown man's smock. But could you just give Ode Pastor a reach around and see what you can find?
I didn't even know what a smock was before this conversation, but the first one we got is F1 Manager 24 for PlayStation, for PS5, Xbox Series S.
To be honest,
SX.
the language barrier means I can get away with blue murder on this show, and you don't even know.
Absolutely. And this crazy thing, we're speaking English and we're just different style of English. It's so crazy. Absolutely crazy. F1 Manager 2024 coming at you for PS4, Xbox Series S and X, and the Nintendo Switch. I don't know why people want to play this on the Switch.
I got the little heads up that this was coming to Switch a couple of weeks ago.
Please don't tell me you purchased this on the Switch, George.
And it's coming to the Switch, so feature-packed, and there's no compromises getting this on the Switch. Maybe graphically a little bit. I'm not answering your question. Okay. Not on air, not like this, not now.
Okay.
I don't have this for the Switch currently, but I did think what a great game to take on the go.
No! Oh, no!
While Seb recovers from that, let's slap him up the backside with Frostpunk 2 coming out on PC July 25th, 2024. Develop, expand, and advance your city in a society survival game set 30 years after an apocalyptic blizzard ravaged Earth in Frostpunk 2. You face not only the perils of the never-ending winter, but also struggle with managing factions inside the council hall that watch your every step.
Okay, and then we have a ranger role puzzling adventure. I'm talking about you name a game based on what your game actually is. A role puzzling
like
adventure.
Shin.
Yeah, exactly. For PS5, Xbox Series X and X, it's coming at us July 25th. Find your way in a world of breezy, thoughtful puzzles along a charming journey of self-discovery. So yeah, those are
which one's your Longhorn?
If I gotta choose one, Frostpunk 2, I'm not gonna play any of these games if I'm being honest, George. I'm just not gonna do it.
You've got to put your name to. You've got to put your Longhorn into one of them. Which one's it going to be?
I gotta put my stamp on one of them. It'll probably be. Dang it! Let's just go with F1 Manager.
Okay.
It seems like the easiest pick up and play game at this point.
Well, that game's getting double penetrated because I'm going to stick my Longhorn in it as well.
What? 2 Longhorn penetrations. Okay. So George, with all that being said, what are we going to be doing? Are we doing community corrections right now? Do we have any community corrections?
I don't know. The show has spaced out into this new format, which I quite like. I find this commune to be quite a nice place. What I would say is if you listen to every second of every show, don't panic, okay? It's going to come good, but you got to come on a journey with us first, right? It's gonna
be good. We have a story arc going here, people.
Yeah, just hear it out. Fabricating some of this on and off air storyline has been complicated at best, but hopefully you're in for the journey. Let's get that out of the way. Okay, so community corrections. If you want to reach out to us, you can email us at questions@unofficialcontrollerpodcast.com. You can reach us via direct message on Instagram or Twitter, or you can join our Discord and engage with us there, All those ways of engaging with us are absolutely free, no charge. The show is also free. It always will be. It's my promise to you. If you just stumbled across this show and you hear about all these subscription tiers, don't worry, don't worry your pretty little head about it. You don't need to worry about it. But if you've been listening for a while and you enjoy us in your ears on a weekly basis, Seb, it only makes sense for them to subscribe and support us. We'll do the tiers next week, but let's just get our little thank yous in now. I have the list in front of me, or at least I thought.
Okay, go ahead.
Have you got the list in front of you?
I can pull it up. Keep going.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start off by saying we've got a new supporter this week,
Whoop, whoop.
and that's Carlos. He calls himself the One Man George Fan Club. So all my wishes...
Get out of here, the George Fan Club.
Oh, what? Hang on. The sole proprietor, CEO, and president of the UCP isn't allowed even one fan.
Yeah, you're right.
Actually, do you know what, Carlos? You should rename yourself because I think it's gone to my head. I don't think I need a fan club because I turned into an egomaniac and old Longhorn. I don't want to get gored by the Longhorn again. So thank you to Carlos. You're very kind, and I do actually personally appreciate you stepping up like that. Thank you. The next one, Trestles, New York. Thank you for your subscription. Have you got the list yet, sir?
Bada Binksta.
Nice. Which means I get to say Tingle Tuna.
Digital Monkery.
I get to thank Roast Space Monk.
The Gaming Graham.
Saved it.
Yeah, I remember.
RGT jumped over the commune fence without changing any of the paperwork or sorting out any of the UCP folders or files, but we'll let him go. He's got the wind in his hair. I don't think he's stopped running yet. Bold Border.
Bold
Border Boba. The immortal Scotty from Marathon Gaming.
Seal Master Elliot.
My red-headed stepson, Ginge.
Emma Sharp.
Who's not on the apps. Harvey Retro, the ever-living.
Nowhere near Berlin.
I've got to thank Mumsy.
RGT Fan Club.
Which means I'm thanking Pete Brocklehurst.
Billy Mormite.
Simon Pryke.
And Fat Zan Keith.
That is absolute filth. Listen, thank you to everyone who subscribed. As I said at the top of the sort of outro here, we're not looking to pressurize anyone into paying. I probably owe Carlos an apology because I called him out by name last week and then he turned up. But you're very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that. But if you've been listening for a while and you think, well, how can I help these guys continue doing what they do? There's a little link at the bottom of wherever you've listened to this show, be it iTunes, Spotify, or whatever. There's a little link at the bottom. Click on that. Whatever you think we're worth, pay it. I would say next week we'll go through the tiers again. I don't want to bore everybody with it, especially those that probably aren't contributing or aren't in the Discord, because there's so many more people out there that don't get involved in that sort of stuff. I don't want to alienate them in any way. But we'll do the tiers next week. But it isn't just us scalping money. You're going to get a yearly t-shirt, depending on the level you're at. You're going to get access to the Inglorious chat on the Discord, which is like a private area for paying members. It's the only bit that's locked off. And a myriad of other cool stuff, as well as like if you pay the top tier, you get a one-to-one FaceTime meeting with me and another host. We need to just firm up the date on that. Sorry for that, guys. We've had a few things going on, but we will make it right by you.
And if you keep subscribing, it holds off on us sending you links for our OnlyFans page. So keep subscribing and you will not see those links.
No one needs to see my foot pics, that's for sure. Seb, before we let Pastor Longhorn serenade us with his, what I would say, banging tune, which basically convinced me to join his cult, that's how good it is. Before we roll into that, and he's sitting down cross-legged and he's tuning his guitar quietly in the corner there, I've got to ask you, contractually, what are you hoping to play?
I'm going to be playing a lot of the games I mentioned on the top of the show. I'm going to try to see if any of all of them get better over the 10-hour mark, and I'm going to be playing NCAA football. So those are kind of what I'm going to be playing. George, what about you?
The sun's out, so I've got my guns out. So I'm going to probably sit on the grass playing MLB on the portal. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also probably going to be sat in the bath playing Dave the Diver, just for that realism.
So you're half submerged in the water, and then it gives you that realistic element on the portal of playing underwater.
But because I'm a bit protective of my tech, I've got the portal wrapped in like a swimming bag.
I love that. Absolutely love that.
Well said and done. I mean, we're at outro stage, aren't we?
Yes, sir. We are. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. Keep tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Support us if you like the show. If don't pressure on anything like that. Also, we got some major things coming up, some really exciting news, some really exciting projects. So stay tuned right here at the UCP. George, without further ado, thank you so much for listening and being a part of this episode with me. I always love being on the show.
The show always loves you being on it, as do I. Okay, Pastor, you want to start taking it away? Love the intro. And that's all we have time for this week, listeners. As always, thank you for your time. I look forward to the pleasure of speaking to you again next week. Until then, happy gaming. And remember, there's nothing wrong with being given an official controller. It's what you do that counts. See you, Seb.
George and Seb rolling down
Hit
the
it,
road.
Pastor.
RGT riding shotgun, a heavy load. Pastor Longhorn waiting to unfold. In El Paso, Texas, tales been told. One arm big, a sight to see. Pastor preach, set you free. George and Seb, they bend the knee. RGT nodding yes in glee. Join the cult in El Paso town, where Pastor Longhorn's got his crown. One arm high, the other down. We're the wildest show around. Sunday's hot, the desert air. George and Seb both feel the glare. Longhorn's words hang everywhere. Salvation found without a care. Sunday's hot, the desert air. George and Seb both feel the glare. Longhorn's words hang everywhere. Salvation found without a care. RGT plays a sacred tune underneath the El Paso moon. Longhorn grins from afternoon to the night, they'll see it soon. Join the cult in El Paso town, where Pastor Longhorn's got his crown. One high, the other down. We're the wildest show around. We're the wildest show around.